I cannot believe I'm saying these words, but Square Enix have reached out to me and given me an early copy of Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D Remake to make a video on and give you my thoughts. This new entry into the beloved franchise comes out tomorrow, October 30th, 2025. It is a remake of the originals from 1986 and 1987, also known as Dragon Warrior if you're from the States. Last year we got a remake of Dragon Quest 3 in its beautiful HD 2D glory, and now we get the rest of the AHHH trilogy in such beautiful, beautiful gloss. So if you don't know, chronologically, Dragon Quest 1 and 2 take place after the events of Dragon Quest 3. I really like how they've gone about it this time around to release the games in chronological order. It gives the new generation of Dragon Quest players a different perspective on the AHHH lineage. If you've played the original Dragon Quest 1 and 2, you'll know that mostly due to the time that they were developed in, they are quite straightforward and short games. But now this remake bundles the two games together and revamps it for a modern audience, along with adding a lot, and I mean a lot, of new content, new side stories and new objectives, and a lot of character development to boot. But how does it hold up? Well, hi, my name's Grania, and I really like Dragon Quest quite a bit. My entire channel is dedicated to this franchise, and it is without a doubt my favorite video game series of all time, ever since I was like 10 years old. So not only am I incredibly thankful and honored that Square Enix reached out to me to review this entry into this franchise, I'd like to think that I know my questing and dragons and whatnot to be able to tell you how it holds up. So let's get a mosey on, shall we? I was blown away by the graphics of the 3 remake, and I'm blown away again by just how gorgeous this game is. It is so amazing to see these towns and dungeons that were previously left up to you to imagine the vastness of, now coming to life and being everything you could have imagined. Suddenly you can see the statues and architecture of the castles, the hills and terrain of the overworld, the movement of water, the texture of carpet. Alongside that, we now have the symphonic soundtracks woven into these remakes. I have always loved the music of Dragon Quest, and I have said repeatedly that the music of Dragon Quest 2 is my favorite in the entire franchise, so I was really excited to finally hear these recordings in the actual game. Whereas before you were kind of limited in the originals to that kind of 8-bit or MIDI style music that they would put into these retro games. There's also been many quality of life improvements made to both games, like more accessible saving, difficulty level adjustments, ability shortcuts, just stuff that adds a lot more fluidity to your gameplay style. The original Dragon Quest 1 and 2 overall had a pretty short runtime, as well as a pretty clear story and goal. It also does not spoon feed you any information. You gotta talk to just about every NPC in the game just to figure out what you're doing. This is remedied in the remake so you can actually view your objectives on the map, or you can have that switched off if you prefer the challenge, but I really like how they have this option for people like me who either work full-time or just have really busy lives, who might put down the game for a few days or weeks and come back to it so you're not totally lost. I just really like how Dragon Quest implements these, like, I would call life-friendly features in the game. But that being said, there is still the option of a harder challenge if you seek that. There's a little something for everyone in this game. And there's also so much more story, character arcs and development. I want to talk about it all so bad, but I am holding myself back because I don't want to spoil anything, and I also want you guys to experience all of these things for yourself, because I'll cut to the chase. This game is absolutely worth getting. These remakes are truly something special. But I'm biased. I know. I've always loved these games, but I genuinely mean it when I say that this game in particular is a job well done. And I mean that in respect to the Dragon Quest 3 remake as well, which is brilliant in its own right. But the 1 and 2 remake was handled in such a way that it is just so incredibly true to its source, all the while creating this brand new adventure. And I'm gonna get into why now, starting with Dragon Quest 1. Dragon Quest 1, in my opinion, would have been the biggest challenge to remake for a modern audience. Taking place many years after the events of Dragon Quest 3, you have one protagonist and 2 goals: save Princess Gwaelin and defeat the Dragon Lord. The original gives you just a handful of tasks to do in order to accomplish these things. But when I started up that remake, I knew I was in for something new and special. There's new locations, new side stories, new objectives. And what I really like about this remake is how they have utilized features, creatures, and concepts that were introduced in later games in the franchise. So in a way, it's more like they have updated the older games to be brought up to speed with the universe that they have created created for Dragon Quest. You play as only one hero in Dragon Quest 1, and they haven't changed that here. And yet, I didn't feel limited by this at all. Having the one player makes you aware of your own battle strategies. You gotta balance your buffs and heals alongside your attacks and spells to take down your enemies. You play a mostly silent protagonist, as is the norm in Dragon Quest games, but the added dialogue of NPCs, both from the original game and the new additions, all with their own motivations and complexities, personify the game and open the window into the world that you are fighting to save. These characters all work together to personify Alfgard itself, thus making you root for the success of the hero even more, the Scion of Erdrick. To contrast this point, let's look at Dragon Quest II. Carrying on a few generations after the events of Dragon Quest I, a new evil has threatened the world of Alfgard, Hargon. In this remake, you have 4 playable characters, as opposed to the 3 in the original Dragon Quest II. You have the protagonist, Prince of Midenhall, the Princess of Moonbrook, the Prince of Connacht, and the newly added Princess of Connacht. That is another thing that I felt made more sense to have present. The whole cast are cousins and scions of Erdrick, so why shouldn't the Princess of Connacht be involved in the party? I really like how they've added her, and I feel like she makes the party feel a lot more complete. Another contrast is, while the hero of 1 is implied to be a grown adult, our cast of heroes in 2 are, I'm assuming, to be a good bit younger, mid-teens about. While the hero of Dragon Quest I is showing his strength through his solo prowess, the heroes of 2 are showcasing their combined strength in spite of their youth. I also kind of like how it's reminiscent of times in one's own youth when you could be playing pretend knights and warriors with like cool sticks you found in the garden. Onto the characters themselves, it's amazing how these characters are brought even more to life and are even more developed in this remake. The Princess of Moonbrook is now this admirable heroine who throughout the game has to come to terms with her own grief and anger at the evil Hargon, and showcases resilience alongside measured and controlled strength in all forms, also while being the brains of the group. The Princess of Connacht offers this less controlled but powerful fiery attitude that's proactive and energetic, but she also faces this journey of learning to control her own emotions and impulsiveness. I also want to take a second to talk about the Prince of Connacht, because without a doubt, he is like my favorite character amongst all these remakes. He is this like airheaded bundle of joy that offers the group a more present perspective of enjoying the moment and adventure, and learning to have fun instead of being entirely focused and serious the whole time. He brings so many moments of comic relief to the game that I just found so endearing and frankly quite hilarious.
Hello, hello! It's time to play.
That brings me to the humour of the remake as well. They've injected into the remake these lighthearted jokes and visual gags that were much more present in later games in the Dragon Quest franchise, and it works so well. It's very Monty Python-esque humour that tickles me and I adore, and I found myself audibly laughing at some moments in this game just because of how off guard they caught me.
I am afraid, dear Chancellor, that thou hast been hoodwinked by a thieving fiend in a pretty dress. Ah, pretend you didn't see that.
I'll be honest, when jumping into this game, I was worried that the game would be kind of one-dimensional and that they would just make the exact same 2 games and just put that HD 2D gloss over it. Not that that would have necessarily been a bad thing. I mean, the original Dragon Quest 1 and 2 deserved their flowers. They pretty much birthed the JRPG genre. But the developers here instead saw this opportunity to use the scaffolding that they had set up in the later games in this franchise and the world that they have created within Dragon Quest, and they just ran with it to make something that doesn't paint over the original games but more so complements the original games. And they nailed it, honestly. It still maintains everything, and I mean everything, that made these games so revered in the first place, while also adding these new avenues of enjoyment. New features that enhance the experience include the scrolls that you can use to assign new skills to your party to use in battle, or sigils that enhance the battling experience that give your spells and abilities a decent boost, alongside adding in the hunt for mini medals in return return for rewards, a feature that became very popular and prominent in later Dragon Quest games. The remakes also maintain things like the overall story, now a deepened plot and containing many surprises that I'm sure long-term fans like myself will be losing their minds over. They've also, of course, revamped the combat system with updated spells, abilities, and weapons. And they've even updated the, Tombola. Lads. The way the Tombola chased me around like a bad omen while I was playing this game, I kept telling myself, no, I have a world to save, I have a game to play, and I also have a review to write. So I do not have time for this, I will come back to it once it's all said and done. And then I get into the next town, and then there'd be another one of those spinny wheels of torment in there, and I couldn't resist. I would be breaking into people's homes, breaking pots to find Tombola tickets, or just selling everything I own in hopes that the store owner would reward me with a Tombola ticket for my continued custom. It got to this point where I forgot Hargon's name or what continent I was on. So yeah, good game. Once again, I would like to give the biggest thank you to Square Enix for reaching out to me and giving me this amazing opportunity to experience this game early and to be able to give you guys my thoughts. I got absolutely sucked into this game, and even though I knew I was more than likely going to enjoy this game, I still found myself with my expectations exceeded, and I genuinely think that this game serves as either the perfect entry point for any new players considering getting into the franchise, or if you just want to view it as this beautiful love letter to long-term fans. And with a runtime of about 50 hours to get through the main story of both games, I really think you're going to be getting your money's worth as well. But yeah, Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D Remake comes out tomorrow, October 30th. I hope you enjoyed this video because I'm not very used to doing the whole review thing. But anyway, for now, my name is Grania, and I like Dragon Quest.